Hey everyone, and welcome back to Prepper Pro. Sometimes it feels like you're going about your day, picking up your usual groceries, and suddenly, bam, the shelves are empty. We're diving deep into 9 foods that might be harder to find by the end of the month, and we're exploring the why. From climate change messing with crops to strikes at major ports, there are a lot of factors at play. So if you're ready to become a more informed shopper and maybe even get a little bit ahead of the curve, stick around. Because understanding these shortages isn't about panicking, it's about being prepared. Let's get to it. Okay, so let's talk bananas. They're practically a staple food group, right? Smoothies, banana bread, the occasional potassium-rich snack. We rely on these yellow guys. But here's the thing. A lot of our bananas come from overseas and they don't exactly travel well. They need to be shipped at a very specific temperature, and they only have a short shelf life. So, when things go wrong at ports, like strikes or slowdowns, those bananas are often the first to feel the heat. Literally. Imagine a big old ship full of bananas just stuck at the docks. The clock is ticking, those bananas are ripening way too fast, and suddenly you've got a whole lot of wasted fruit. And wasted fruit means fewer bananas making it to your local grocery store. It's a good reminder to maybe branch out from your usual banana routine and explore some other fruits while we're at it. Alright, seafood lovers, this one's for you. And by for you, I mean get ready to potentially pay a bit more for your favorite catches. Because just like our banana friends, a lot of seafood is imported. And you guessed it, those port strikes and delays are hitting the seafood industry hard. Now seafood is even more perishable than bananas. We're talking about a very limited window to get it from the ocean to your plate while it's still fresh. So, any kind of holdup at the ports can be a major problem. And it's not just about the delays either. Fuel prices for transportation are already high, and these delays just add more fuel to the fire. All of this adds up to higher prices at the seafood counter. So, if you're a fan of salmon, shrimp, or any other ocean delights, be prepared to shell out a bit more or maybe explore some locally sourced options. Now, let's talk about a food that's near and dear to many of our hearts, beef. But before you fire up the grill, you might want to brace yourselves because beef prices have been on the rise, and those port problems are only making things worse. See, a lot of the beef we consume, especially those fancy cuts you might find at a steakhouse, is imported. And guess what? Those imports are facing the same delays and disruptions as everything else. But here's the thing about beef. It's not just about getting it here. It's also about the whole supply chain. Think about the ranchers, the slaughterhouses, the processing plants. Every step in that process relies on timing and efficiency. When one part of the chain gets disrupted, it throws everything off. It's a complex system, and those port problems are like throwing a wrench right into the gears. So don't be surprised if you see beef prices continuing to climb or if your favorite cuts are harder to come by. Chapter 4. Canned goods not so convenient anymore. Okay, let's talk about those pantry staples we often take for granted. Canned and processed foods. You know, the soups, the beans, the stuff that can last for months or even years in the back of your cupboard. You might think they'd be immune to these supply chain issues, but think again. While canned goods have a much longer shelf life than fresh produce or seafood, they're not completely invincible. They still need to be transported, processed, and distributed, and all of those steps are being affected by those pesky port problems. Think about it. Those cans of soup aren't going to magically teleport themselves to your grocery store shelves. They need to be loaded onto trucks, shipped across the country, and unloaded at their destination. Plus, there's another factor at play here: packaging. A lot of canned goods rely on imported materials like aluminum and tin. So, while your canned goods might not spoil as quickly as a banana, don't be surprised if you start seeing fewer options on the shelves or if prices start creeping up. Chapter 5. Wheat feeling the heat of climate change. Alright, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about wheat. I'm talking about the stuff that gives us bread, pasta, cereal, basically a whole lot of our daily carbs. But here's the thing, wheat production is facing a whole different set of challenges, and climate change is public enemy number one. You see, wheat is a very picky crop. It needs just the right amount of rain, just the right amount of sunshine, and just the right temperature to thrive. And as our climate continues to change, those ideal growing conditions are becoming increasingly unpredictable. Droughts, floods, extreme heat, these are all becoming more common in wheat-growing regions around the world, And when those events hit, they can wipe out entire harvests, leading to shortages and price spikes. So, next time you reach for a loaf of bread or a bowl of pasta, take a moment to appreciate the complex journey that wheat takes to get to your plate, and the challenges that climate change is posing to this essential crop. Chapter 6. Coffee, the bitter truth about your morning cup. Okay, coffee lovers, this one's a bit of a wake-up call. That morning cup of joe that helps you face the day? Well, it's facing its own set of challenges, and once again, climate change is the main culprit. You see, coffee beans are just as picky as wheat when it comes to their ideal growing conditions. They thrive in specific regions with specific temperatures and rainfall patterns. And as our climate changes, those regions are shrinking, and the conditions are becoming less predictable. Droughts can wither coffee plants, while excessive rainfall can lead to diseases that damage the beans. And let's not forget about those pesky pests that are thriving in warmer temperatures and wreaking havoc on coffee crops. All of this means that coffee production is becoming more challenging and less reliable, which could lead to shortages and higher prices for your daily caffeine fix. So yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's the reality we're facing. Chapter 7. Spices. Adding flavor to the climate crisis. Let's talk about spices. Those little jars of flavor that can transform a bland dish into a culinary masterpiece. But behind those seemingly insignificant bottles lies a complex global trade network that's also being affected by climate change. Spices like black pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, they all come from plants that are sensitive to changes in temperature and rainfall. And as our climate continues to change, those changes are disrupting spice production in major growing regions around the world. For example, Vietnam, one of the world's leading producers of black pepper, has been experiencing more intense droughts and floods in recent years, which has damaged pepper crops and reduced yields. So that pinch of cinnamon you sprinkle on your oatmeal or the dash of black pepper you add to your soup, those spices might become more expensive or harder to find in the future as climate change continues to disrupt global spice production. Chapter 8. Fruits and Veggies. Feeling the squeeze. All right, let's talk about the foundation of a healthy diet, fruits and vegetables. But before you reach for that apple or grab a handful of spinach, brace yourselves, because the produce aisle is also feeling the heat of climate change. You see, fruits and vegetables are incredibly diverse, and they're grown in all sorts of climates around the world. But they all share one thing in common. They're incredibly sensitive to changes in temperature and rainfall. Droughts can wither crops, floods can drown them, and extreme heat can prevent fruits from setting or vegetables from maturing properly. And as our climate becomes more unpredictable, these extreme weather events are becoming more common in many fruit and vegetable growing regions. So next time you reach for that apple or grab a handful of spinach, remember the challenges that climate change is posing to this essential part of our diet. Chapter 9. Dairy. It's not just the cows, it's everything. And finally, let's talk about dairy. Milk, cheese, yogurt, these are all staples in many of our diets. But the dairy industry is facing a perfect storm of challenges, and it's not just about the cows. Sure, cows are affected by extreme weather just like any other livestock. Heat stress can reduce milk production, and droughts can lead to shortages of feed and water. But the dairy industry is also facing economic and political challenges that are contributing to rising prices and potential shortages. For example, the cost of feed for dairy cows has been rising due to factors like increased demand and transportation costs. And labor shortages in the agricultural sector are making it more difficult and expensive to find workers to milk cows, process milk, and transport dairy products. So, the next time you pour yourself a glass of milk or sprinkle cheese on your pasta, remember that it represents a complex web of interconnected factors, from the health of dairy cows to the global economy. So, there you have it. 9 foods that might become a little less common on our plates in the coming weeks and months. It's not about panicking. It's about being aware of the challenges facing our food system and making informed choices. Supporting local farmers, exploring alternative ingredients, and maybe even brushing up on those home canning skills. These are all ways we can navigate these uncertain times. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on more videos like this. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay hungry for knowledge and, actual food.